I want to create a culture where people really want to be. I want to create a culture where people show up to work with their hair on fire, where it's not a place where they feel they have to be, but it's a place where they truly want to be. I started looking around to try to find some sort of a study that would reinforce what I believe, and that is that most people like to be wherever it is they work. I was determined to find that kind of a study. And as I looked around, it was at that moment that I realized I was experiencing a magical moment. Because it was at that moment that I realized that my boss was right. I realized that the studies that I was finding indeed showed that most people were disengaged. There are a handful of you in this room that fall in that actively disengaged category. You may not necessarily show it. You may not necessarily allow people to see that on a regular basis. Some of you may. But for some, that's their approach to trying to make things better. And they come across as being actively disengaged. I believe, without question, there's some of you here. According to statistics, there's 1 in 5. 1 in 5. Here's what I want you to do. I want you to look around your table and get two faces locked in your mind. Look around your table, get 2 faces locked in your mind. Now continue to look around your table and get the image of 2 more people in your head. You got that? You got 4 images of people in your head? So here's the deal. If it's not one of them, could be you. Statistics, 1 in 5. Apparently just being disengaged isn't good enough. No, these people are walking up and down the halls recruiting new members. They're standing out in the parking lot having a pity party, talking about how bad things are, talking about how good things used to be. Remember how good it used to be before we got this new policy? Remember how good it used to be before we got this new board member? Remember how good it used to be when we had this different superintendent? Remember how good it used to be before and the list just goes on and on and on. Fill in the blank. There's just a ton of things that they believe used to be better than it is today. Sometimes we spend so much time as the leader pointing the finger of blame at somebody else saying, well, if they would just show up more engaged, if they would just make adjustments, then we could all be better off. The reality is not only do the employees have a role, but we, as the leaders, have a personal role in the way we go about doing that. We have those oh yes on one end of the spectrum that are willing to do whatever it is we ask them to do, always trying to build up the culture. At the other end, we have that 17% that's always trying to tear down the culture. That's the 17% that I refer to as the oh no's. Because it doesn't matter what you say to them, their only response is, no, no. We're going to have a few changes around here. Oh, no, not more changes. We haven't even had a chance to do it the old way. We already have to do it a new way. They've been off to charm school over there at Tasbo. They're going to come back all fired up and excited. They're going to want to do all that new stuff. But don't worry, it will only last about 2 or 3 weeks. And then we can get back to normal around here. So we've got the oh yes on one end, we've got the oh no's on the other, and right in the middle we have this 54% that's willing to do whatever it is we ask them to do. It's the 54% that I refer to as the okays. Because it doesn't matter what you say to them, their only response is, okay. We have a little project we'd like to ask you to take on. Okay. No, really, it's not going to be very pleasant. Okay. Whatever you want me to do. Got to get paid. Whatever you need me to do, I'll do it. As long as it's not illegal or immoral or fattening, I will do it because that's my job. And
have to get paid. So whatever it is, just tell me what to do and I will do it. Now, I will be in when you tell me to come in and I will leave when I'm supposed to leave. I won't be going above and beyond. In fact, you know these people. I mean, they literally will leave mid-sentence. They'll be in the middle of a oh, look at the time. Oh, my goodness. We're going to have to pick this up tomorrow. It is my time to go home. You know these people, don't you? Again, nothing wrong with them. They're the ones who are pulling the wagon in the majority of the districts around the state. They're the ones that are doing the work. They're getting the job done. They're just not going above and beyond. I'm a firm believer that companies are not made up of good managers. Companies are not made up of good leaders. Companies are made up of good people. You are what you are, and you've enjoyed the success that you have enjoyed, not because you're just good leaders in general. You've gotten there because you're good people. And as a result, it has allowed you to blend that into the culture. Somebody said 64. I'm guessing it's because somebody probably told you one time there's a 10-mile window over. Some of you will go 60 because you used to live next door to a cop who told you there's a 5-mile window. Whatever your reason may be, somebody convinced you that while that might be the expectation, you don't believe that a negative consequence is really going to kick in until some other place. So what do? What is human nature? Our human nature is to go all the way up to the line right before we think a negative consequence will kick in. And that's where we push it. Here's my question. If you do that with something as simple as a speed limit, what makes you think your employees do anything differently when you lay out an expectation? How many of you ever driven through an area and you couldn't find a speed limit sign? How did that make you feel? Anxious, right? You know why it made you feel anxious? Because you wanted to know what the limit was so you then could determine how fast you can go over that. There's a reason you laugh, because you know that's true. Because you see, that's my wife. You see, I often have to remind my wife that that's a limit. You see, she thinks, like many of you, that that's the number you race up to. And then, based on a lot of scenarios, is it raining? Are there cops around? What's the traffic like? Is it dark? Whatever her multitude of scenarios she creates in her head, she then determines how fast she can go over that. She says, I drive like an old man because I drive the speed limit. And I always tell her it's because I'm sure I've done enough wrong in my life that I'll have to figure all that out later. I don't need to break this rule because this is an easy one for me. So I drive the speed limit. She, on the other hand, drives the car like she stole it. It's a frightening experience to drive with this woman because she's always speeding everywhere she goes. She's like many of you. She sees that as a suggestion, not as an actual law. I own a leadership development company. I train leaders. I develop leaders. That's what I do for a living. I hope that the words that I share maybe inspire some people to go out and do something different. But when I think of motivational leaders, or when I think of motivational speakers, I think of those types of people who say those nonsensical things that you forget a minute after you've walked out of the room. You know, I mean, I want to inspire people. I do not want to be the guy who lives in a van down by the river. I don't want to be that guy. That's not what this is, though. That's not what Tell Me Something Good is. Tell Me Something Good is a culture enhancer. It's a culture builder. It allows you to focus on what's working well. And it says that you as the leader will stand for nothing less than people sharing with you what works well. I couldn't help but walk over, put my arms around her, and give her a great big hug and say thank you. Thank you for being a regular reminder to me that we don't do these things because we've been taught. We do these things because we've been reminded. She was my reminder on that day. I hope I've been that reminder to you all here today.